Good morning. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Live with Lys. Happy Wednesday. Today, we're talking about communication strategies for law firms. And last week, we focused more on the crisis communication, but today, we're talking about general communication. As many of you know, my background has really been in these roles that straddles the business side and the legal side. And so I've been witness and participant to many a conflict between marketing, communications, and legal. And on the corporate side, it's mostly the marketing department saying, or the business units, not just marketing, saying legal never lets us do anything. It's always no, 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 no. And in the law firm side, in private practice, I have worked with so many different marketing teams where the marketers kind of pull their hair out almost when they get frustrated with the lawyers or the partners or the people in charge saying, no, no, no. And the marketing department or the communications people saying, who might be one and the same, can you please just let us do our job? And it's understandable that these feelings happen and that they exist. We know that lawyers are inherently risk averse and that marketers and business units have to take risks in order to be successful in business. And it's just about a measured approach there, right? When we're talking about communication strategies for law firms, we're talking about all different types of communications. Maybe it's internal communications with your team, maybe it's external communications with the public. Maybe it's communications with co-counsel or opposing counsel, with the court systems, with the administrative offices that you work with vendors and suppliers, but most importantly, with clients. That client experience, the client journey, and the communication that you have for them will make or break your law firm business. And as you know, or maybe you don't, the easiest way to get new business in a law firm is through word of mouth referrals. And the easiest way to lose business is through people speaking badly about their experience with your firm. What does that boil down to? Many, many times it boils down to communication. Is it effective? Is it harmful? Is it something that fosters your relationships, or is it something that hinders them a bit? And Mariana, who just said communications is key to every relationship, is right. Communication is key to every relationship. So let's see. There are a lot of different strategies that law firms can employ to have effective communications across the board. None may be as important as getting on the same page, developing that tone of voice, and having a consistent and clear and effective policy in place at your firm that dictates how you communicate with your clients. And I said dictate's probably not the best word. How about guides? So you want to have at your firm a guideline in place or a communications policy that lays things out. I'm not talking about just a list of rules of things you can't do. I'm talking about starting, hey, Leah, good morning. Starting with what are your goals and general policies, your vision for the firm, your mission. What are these things that define who you are as a firm, your perspective, and what you have to offer? What is your story? And that is important to start off with, that your whole team is on the same page, that people are in agreement and have an understanding about what it is you're communicating. You also want to lay out acceptable forms of communication. Can people expect to be able to communicate with you, clients too, via direct message or WhatsApp, whereas in some cases that might be fine for certain law firms, it might be completely frowned upon for others. Are there specific tools that your law firm is authorized or approved to use on a regular basis? Do you have a regular message that you extend as a greeting or as a closure for each one? Is there an expectation about step-by-step what people can expect from you? All of these things can be laid out in a beautiful policy for your firm that puts people on the same page. And there are reasons for this. Of course, as a law firm, you're very concerned about things like ethics and security and data privacy, and having everything laid out so that everyone understands from the beginning what's acceptable and what isn't is a great way to start that. and to ensure that you have safe and effective communications with your clients and with all the other parties that we talked about in the very beginning. Now, connecting with your audience can be a little bit difficult. So there is a true need for consistency in your messaging, and that consistency can be achieved by having that same story told by everyone involved. And so this is very important when it comes to your tone. I'm going to give you an example here about tone and how it works. So a lot of people, and it's not just tone, it could be body language. Maybe you have a dress code, maybe you're online, you have a certain persona for your firm, you have identified the persona of your target audience. So how do you connect with people, and who is it you're trying to connect with? Well, LinkedIn, my favorite social media platform, is one where your bio is front and center, as you know, it is on your website too. And there's usually a formula that marketers use to express the skills and qualifications of the team. This happens on LinkedIn too, but you might want to turn that lawyer mode off, but make that decision as a firm so that you have a consistent message from one person to the next. So you might have one lawyer who's like a third part, maybe it's third person for this description of the bio everywhere. Maybe on your website, that's okay. But in social media, you might want to be more casual about it. So maybe it's, oh, I'm Mr. IP attorney, and it's he or she, Mr. IP attorney who represents lots of important clients, could also represent you. And there's not much else there, no real details. You don't get to know the person at all. And it doesn't really convey much. Or you could approach it another way that's a bit more casual. And in your LinkedIn bio, you could say, hey, first person, I'm a patent attorney and I represent lots of interesting innovators and inventors. And this excites me every day about my career. And I get to really work with new technologies. Very interesting. If you've got a new technology, I'd love to work with you too. And so you see automatically when you switch from third person to first person, that tone is completely different, but you want consistency across the team. You want to make sure that you're developing a tone and have a formula so it's easy. And I'm not suggesting that attorneys necessarily have to even do this themselves. You might say, oh, Rachel's a real go-getter. And, you could still do it even in third person, making it more casual. But consistency is key. Formulas make things easy. Having the policy in place to guide you through that process is helpful. And in the end, you create this effective communication with potential clients, current clients, everyone else out in your world, your circle of influence. And that's really important. So being cognizant of that client experience when they communicate with you is one of the most important things so that you can truly foster growth at your firm. Now, there are some other things that you could lay out here, tools that you can use to really develop a client experience that has the effect that you're looking for. And one of them is a client portal. A lot of firms have started using this, but some of them haven't taken advantage of the client portal as a communications tool. So this is a real chance to curate a journey for a client, whether it's on a website, usually client portals are, but it could be standalone software where they're logging in and connecting with you. And maybe there's an opportunity for them to ask questions. Maybe you guide them to certain information. Maybe you have a chat bot. Hey, Ahu, how's it going? You might have these tools in place that can really influence how the client experiences communication with your firm in a positive way. Now, if you don't pay attention or don't have some of these tools in place, that doesn't mean that your clients are going to have a terrible experience from the get-go, but you can make use of these tools to automate certain communications. Of course, not all communications should be automated, so think carefully about what you're doing when it comes to email marketing, when it comes to telephone calls and video conferences, but create that consistency, whether it's through your client portal, whether it's through your chatbot, even a consistency across the board with what people can expect. So a lot of law firms will choose to use a singular platform for video conferencing. That can be beneficial because people have an expectation of what you should look like. So in addition to that, responsiveness and accuracy are incredibly important when you're communicating and should form part of your strategy. So I mean by this that some law firms don't have a specific, will always respond within 24 hours. Well, that can really create a good reputation for you if you know for sure that you can rely on your counsel to, at a minimum, acknowledge your communication within 24 hours. You create a consistency, reliability, accountability, and trust. And that fosters those relationships that lead to growth for your firm. These kinds of policies are the ones that we're talking about when you're formulating the communication strategy that works best for your firm. Now, another thing that people tend to neglect is the ethics and security part of it. And it's not that you're not aware of it as attorneys. You're probably constantly aware, more so than your marketing team, and you probably give more caution to it because of that. But one of the strategies you can employ at your firm that can make a real difference here is training. So you need to invest in the personal development of your professionals so that they understand where those ethical boundaries are, which vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction when it comes to communicating. Do certain things count as advertising? Do you have to call them advertising when you're posting in social media, for example? The answer is not as black and white as one might expect. There's a lot of gray area, and that comes from different state regulations, different bar regulations, and there are resources out there for your marketing team to be able to understand where those lines are and what they can do about them. You can get this information directly from bar associations. You can reach out to there's some different resources outside of the bar associations. There's some organizations out there like the Legal Marketing Association, which has these incredible forums where you can ask questions from people who have the exact experience that you need to be able to make an informed decision. So these are all really important things to do. Now, of course, when you're talking about email marketing, you're talking about social media and texting and all these things, you want to maybe also consider the listening. We don't do enough of that, right? Listen to each other, listen to your clients, listen to your colleagues, and make adjustments along the way. And this is something you always hear me say. We conduct an assessment, we figure out what's effective, what's not, and are people making use of your client portal? What needs to change? And then every communication you have, every time you have access to your client, you have an opportunity. Even your invoice, you send a bill, that's a communication opportunity where the experience that your client has opening the invoice, understanding it, responding to it, placing it in line for payment, all of these things can help make or break your firm. So if you have questions about marketing strategies, about communication strategies, and reaching out to clients and making sure that their experience is what you want it to be, or even just crafting that client experience, Firm Forward can help you do that. Send us an inquiry at solutions@firmforward.com and we'll help you in any way that we can. Some takeaways here that I feel are really important for everyone if we want to just nail it down. Every communication, especially for the US market, needs to be relevant, timely, direct, and brief. Those 4 elements are absolutely crucial. Otherwise, you're just a part of the noise when you're communicating. And this is not necessarily with clients directly, but with anyone. You want to make it in front of their eyes to begin with, and not meeting those 4 standards can make it so that you don't even get in front of them. You just wind up in their spam box every single time. There are specific ways to avoid doing that too, but in the end, these are the 4 things: relevance, timeliness, being direct, and keeping it short, being brief. How do you still connect with people? Well, like I said, use that LinkedIn bio. Be casual. Don't be in lawyer mode necessarily all the time. Realize that in 2021, things have changed a bit with the way we communicate. But also, having your team fully informed and all on the same page and creating a tone of voice can really enhance your reputation. People can be confident in knowing what they're going to get from your firm. That can create a really effective communication with your clients and an experience for them that they want to share with other people. And even more common is when they have a bad experience. They'll share it with an average about 15 different people, and that can really cause you to lose business. So invest in this. Spend some time on your communications policy for your firm, on your strategies, on educating your team, and on having an effective communication structure in place to grow your firm's business through a really wonderful client experience. And join us next week on Live with Lys. Take care, everybody.